All right, I'm back for a new video. So I did my little poll and I'm going to do a keyhole, an integral keyhole. I've never done one before and I'm just going to attempt to do it without looking up instructions from other people and all that stuff, just to see how it goes. I mean, if I run into a blockade or something and can't quite figure out what's going on, then I'll probably look up some stuff, but I think that I can get it figured out. But before I do that video, I wanted to address some comments on one of my Hamon videos. So right here, I've got 4 knives that were done out of W2, and they do have Hamons in them, but all I've done so far is sanded these up to 150, hand sanded at 150. So I still have to hand sand up to 600 the way I would typically do it. But there were some comments about doing it with, lemon juice and vinegar and stuff, which I've done them that way before. But after I was introduced to the way I do it now with the ferric and buffing with the green compound and stuff, that to me is a better way to do it. You still get really good results and it's a lot quicker. Basically what it boils down to is your price point. I mean, if you want to spend, 20 hours hand sanding up to a mirror polish and, having to charge $1,000 for a very basic chef's knife, then I'm not sure who exactly is going to buy that, but it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't matter who the maker is. I wouldn't pay $1,000 for just a basic W2 chef's knife. Now, if it was another knife like a traditional Japanese tanto that you intend on spending a lot of time on for maybe a collector or something like that, I can understand wanting to bring out all the facets of a Hamon, all the ashy and all the different lines and stuff. But for these knives, I've really found a quicker way to do it where you still get good results. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 4 knives and I'm going to do one of them just the way I would typically do it. And then I'm going to do another one where I actually hand sand up to 400, and then I'm going to buff it to a mirror polish, and then I'm going to do ferric chloride the way I would normally do it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another one and actually hand sand up to 2500, which was something recommended in the comments. And then I'm going to do the vinegar and lemon juice and all the polishing in between. And then the other one, I'm going to buff up to a mirror polish and then do the vinegar and all that, just to see if hand sanding up to 2500 versus buffing up to a mirror polish and using the vinegar and the lemon juice is going to make much of a difference. Because I don't know a ton about the Hamons. I don't know as much as some people. I know when you hand sand up to 400, it's gotten rid of the decarb. So I'm not quite sure what hand sanding up to 2500 will do versus buffing, to that same finish. One will take a lot more time than the other. So anyway, I just want to see the difference between all of them and all those ways of pulling the Hamon out. I'm not against doing it a certain way. I'm not against hand sanding up to 25. If that works for somebody, then I'm all for it. I just feel that at this price point, I want to make these available to most people. So if I'm spending, like I said, if I'm spending 20 hours hand sanding and pulling out a Hamon, I've got to charge more money for this. Like, I can't spend $40 a knife and charge $200, $300 for it. It's just not how things work. But anyway, I'll get started on these, and this is going to be kind of a quick video. It's going to be more of me just talking like this, but I will start hand sanding and we'll kind of go from there. These handles aren't attached. I've just rough shaped these and got them fit up to these. So I'll remove these. Well, I'll finish sanding to the profile and then I'll remove these, do all the Hamon stuff, and then we'll be to the point where we can just put these back on. So enough talking. I'm gonna head over to the hand sanding block and we're gonna have a bunch of fun. I'm in the middle of the hand sanding process on this first knife, and there's just gonna be a lot of hand sanding in this video. Well, not in the video, but for me, because I'm not gonna record every ounce of hand sanding. But I do wanna point out a couple things. So first of all, I use Simple Green, not diluted, as my lubricant. I know on the lower grits you can use WD-40 and it works pretty well if you want to use a lubricant. You don't have to, but it seems like it makes the paper last a little bit longer. Could just be me, I don't know, but I think it does. So anyway, in one of the comments, some of the advice was to not just hand sand straight, which actually is a good bit of advice, because what you want to do to ensure that you're progressing through the grits. So I have the 150 grit was going straight. So when you progress to the next grit, when you do it, if you go at an angle, so instead of going straight, you go at an angle from the last grit, what that will do for you is that you can look at the lines, the sanding lines, and you can see, you can watch these lines, and as you sand this direction, what you're going to see is, well, probably not on the video, but I'm going to try to demonstrate here. So you have your 150 grit lines that are going this way. So if you take your, let me do it this way. So if you take your you have your 150 grit lines that are going this way. So with your 220, if you sand this way, you're going to see 220 lines. And then as soon as all of these 150 lines are gone, you know that you've taken out all of those 150 grit lines, and then you are at 220. So you can definitely do that. That's a good way to get a feel for it. But I've done this enough that I can tell when I've gotten to the 220, and I'll just move on from there. I kind of know, you know, with this steel, if it creates a certain look, and I'll know that I can progress to the next grit. But if you're newer at it and you want to ensure that you've gotten all the old or the lower grit lines out, just go at an angle on your next grit. So once I've gotten all my 150 grit lines out, because I've been going at an angle, when I go to my 400, I'm going to go straight again. And then as soon as all of the angled lines are out, then you know that your 220 grit has been fully removed. If you want to watch a really good video on hand sanding, Nick Wheeler does a fantastic video explaining. He shows you a lot of the jigs that he's made for hand sanding in particular. And I mean, that guy just offers a lot of really good advice. So if you haven't checked him out yet, I think I said in the last video something about Nick Wheeler, but he's really good, and his videos are older, but the information still pertains to making a really good knife. Okay, so I think you've suffered enough. Let me do the rest of the suffering for you. I will finish up all these knives, all the hand sanding. When it's time to do the buffing, I'll come back to you on that, and then we'll do the etching process on all these. And then as soon as we're done, we'll be able to see how much difference there is between all the different etchants and buffing and sanding and stuff. Got all these hand sanded, and now I'm just buffing this one. Let me finish this up and I'll explain to you what I've got. Good enough for me. All right, let me get all this stuff out of the way and put my gloves on because it's a little chilly out today. And it's snowing again. I've already cleaned my walks like 3 times in the past 2 days. I'm getting old. I think it's time to buy a snowblower. Maybe. Okay, I've got a decent finish on these, so I don't want to run the risk of scratching them on any steel I've got sitting on my counter or on my bench here. Okay, so here's what we've got so far. So I've got 2 knives right here that I sanded up to 2500. I've got 1 knife here, if I can get a hold of it, that I sanded up to 600 and then buffed. And then I have another knife here that I sanded up to 600 and left it. So basically what we've got is, I think I changed it up from the beginning. I think I said I was going to buff 2 of them, but I changed things up just a little bit. So this one right here, this is the way I would typically do it. I'd sand it up to 600, dip it in ferric, and then go from there. I'm not sure if you can see that Hamon kind of peeking through there. And then I've got the one that I buffed right here. And again, not sure if you can see the Hamon peeking through, but it's there also. And then I've got these 2 that I sanded up to 2500 and got a pretty decent mirror finish on this. So there's that one, and then this one, same exact thing, up to 2500. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, let me get rid of these handles, I don't really need those on there, is the 2 2500s. So this is the recommendation. I can't remember your name, but made a comment about sanding up to 2500 and using vinegar and lemon juice, which that's what I'm going to do on one of these. And then the other one, I'm just going to do it with ferric. And we're going to see the big difference between those two. And then my question was, why can't you just sand up to 600 and then buff it to give it a mirror finish? And then he was saying something about decarb in the blade. So anyway, I buffed this one up, and then I'm going to do this in ferric also. Well, actually, that's going to depend. If I see a big difference between the ferric and the lemon juice, and the lemon juice and vinegar is better, then I'll probably do the buffed one with lemon juice and vinegar, just to see if there's going to be a difference between the buffed and then the sanded up to 2500. And then, of course, the standard I'm just going to do with ferric, and the polishing is going to be done on the buffer. I'll show you really quick what I'm going to use to polish. Okay, for the lemon juice and vinegar, I'm going to use this aluminum oxide powder that I've had for a while. And it's a 5 micron, super fine. And what I do is I put it in this little dropper, and I mix it with water. And then I will, after the acid goes on it to polish it, I'll put some drops on here. And then I'll use my little rubber-backed hand sanding stick to rub the oxide on there. And it's really fine, but it works really well to polish. I know some people will use like dish detergent or something like that to polish it, but this aluminum oxide powder works really well. So I'm going to go with that. And I'm going to do all these, and then at the end we can look at them and compare, and hopefully it translates through the camera, but then we can see the difference between all the different acids and polishing and finishing on it. And just in case you don't know how I typically do these is with, like I said, the ferric, but then to polish I'll use the buffer. So that's kind of the whole point, is it's really quick. You put it in the ferric for, 30 seconds, a minute, and then you rub it you get all the oxides off with a 4/0 steel wool, and then you'll put it on the buffer, and you do that like 4 times, and it's a quick process, and you get really good results. So I'm going to start with my standard, and then I'll go to the lemon juice and ferric on the 2500. All right, just grabbing some rubber gloves really quick. So we are starting with how I typically do these. So for this process, after I've hand sanded to the 600, I'm going to pop it in the ferric chloride. This is a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 mix. I can't remember what I did. I've had this forever. But you just have to put it in here for, 30 seconds, a minute, something like that. You'll get some good results from that. And ferric's not actually an acid, so it doesn't eat your hands away if you touch it. I just like wearing the gloves so I don't get my hands so dirty I can't clean them anymore, because the oxides are hard to get off of your hands. Okay, so we'll stop there, but you can see that Hamon popping through there. Okay, so once you've had it in the ferric, then you're going to come over here. And I know you've seen this bucket before, but I just spray it down with some Windex. And then I use my steel wool to give this a little scrub, just to get those oxides off of there. You don't need to get too crazy on this. Okay, then I'll spray it one more time and wipe it off with the trusty shop rag. And then we'll go over here and we're gonna buff this up with green compound. And this doesn't really take too much. Okay. So, should be able to see, there we go. Should be able to see that Hamon already. Looks really nice. Got a lot of the buffing compound. Kind of hard to see, but there we go. So we're just basically going to repeat this process, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, however many times you really want to do it until, it looks like you want it to. I typically do it about 4 times. I've done it, 5 times before. So, all right, back. So I'm gonna spray this with Windex one more time and scrub it down again, just to remove some of the buffing compound off of here. Man, I can't believe that pen hasn't come off of here yet. I wrote standard on here with a Sharpie, and between the between the etch and the buffing, it hasn't come off. So, but just to be safe, I really don't think this is gonna do anything to the final product, but just to be safe, holy crap, I can't get that off of there. I'm rubbing this with acetone and it's not coming off. That is interesting. Actually, I think I know what happened. So I think that pen acted as a resist the first time I etched this. So hopefully this time it etches over that pen. That's funny. Okay, yeah, it's disappearing now. So tip, if you've written on your blade with a Sharpie, make sure to get that off before you etch it. Unless, of course, you want your knife to say whatever you put on there. Okay, those other 2 knives are done. And I can give you a quick look at them if you want. So there's the one that was buffed up to, or sanded up to 2500. And then here's the one that I sanded up to 600 and used Ferricon. So far, this one looks better to me. Not sure why. They kind of seem to bring out the little hazy spots a little bit better than the one that was sanded up higher. So this is the one that we're going to do vinegar. So I've got a vinegar right here, and I put a little bit of dish detergent in it just to act as a surfactant. So it'll actually get rid of some of the surface tension and allow the vinegar to adhere better to the surface, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I'm just gonna add some vinegar to each side and let it soak. rub it in. You can see already that Hamon right there. But I'll just go back and forth and kind of rub this vinegar in. It's been a long time since I've done it this way. But this process, it takes a while because you have to do, I don't know, you're looking about 10 minutes, I guess, for each step. Maybe 15 minutes, I don't know. The ferric just seems to etch a little quicker. Trying to get this angled so that the light will show the Hamon a little better. And don't forget to get the spine because there's usually action in the spine too. Okay, I'm just going to let this vinegar hang out for just a little bit on here. I'm going to set it on the cup so this doesn't soak it out. So this is starting to darken up a little bit. It's forming some oxides. So I'm just rubbing this down again. It's been about 7-8 minutes. And so I'll give this about 15 minutes and then we'll go over and polish it up. And then come back here and do this again. Okay, we're finally getting some good oxide buildup on this. So we'll go over and do a quick polish. Okay, so the polishing step for this, I have this little dropper with water and that aluminum oxide mix. And 5 micron, I think, is what it is. Anyway, I just put a little bit on here, and then I just take my rubber back hand sanding stick, and then just start rubbing it with this stuff right here. It does a pretty good job. And just when you need more, throw it on there. If you keep your hand sanding stick or your hand sanding mount straight, it won't run off of the blade as easily. So just do a quick polish with this stuff. Like that. And then we're starting to see that Hamon come out pretty good. It's probably a little more difficult on the camera to see, but here I'm kind of hitting it right in the light. I'm seeing a pretty distinct Hamon line. Let's see if maybe the other side might be a better angle for the camera to see. No, not really. So we'll just do a polish on this side really quick. Okay, that should be good. Okay, you can kind of see that in the camera a little bit better. See that Hamon starting to pop through on each side here. Okay, so I'm going to go over and do another round of the vinegar and then polish again, and then after that we'll do a round or two of the lemon juice. All right, I did another about 12 minutes with the vinegar, and with that other knife that I haven't done anything with, the one that I buffed, that one I decided just to soak that in vinegar, see if it makes a difference. So it's over there soaking right now. So I'm going to start doing this same process, but just not dabbing the vinegar on. So we'll see how that turns out. Okay, this side should be polished. Pretty good. So that's coming along slowly but surely. So let me polish up this other side and then we'll start with the lemon juice. And there's that side. So back over to the bench, and it's lemon juice time. Okay, so what I have here is basically this is just some organic pure lemon juice. The only ingredient in this is lemon juice. So this is about as close as you can get to just slicing a lemon and squeezing it. And then I have a little leather working dye dauber thing. And then what I did was I heated up the lemon juice, and then again I put a little dish detergent in it as a surfactant. So we're just going to rub this on. And then I know some people, when they do this, they just do the lemon juice down at the bottom. But we're just going to do the whole thing. Because if I understand correctly about this process, the lemon juice is what helps pull out I think it's called the ashy or something, but it's like little cloudy, squiggly fellows that kind of form around the actual line. So doing it up here kind of doesn't make any sense unless you have some lines up here too. So we'll see. So I'll finish this up, and then when I'm ready for the polishing, I'll bring you back and show you the polish. And then after that, I'm just gonna do this whole thing, and then I can show you the results of all of them, and then you can decide which one is worth your time, if any of them look better than the other ones, then That's how you can decide what you're after, what look you're after. So it's starting to darken up just a little bit. So we're just gonna have to do this probably another 15-minute process, but we'll see. All right, we're gonna do a quick look over here. So you can see that Hamon line popping out. So it's looking pretty good. Okay, I just finished up this guy right here. These have all been etched and polished and all that good stuff. And these are the results. So let me get these handle scales out of the way. Okay, so number one, this is how I typically do this stuff. And hoping this will show. So you can see that Hamon is, I mean, it's pretty good. And, you know, yep, we have a dark line across here. And then it's a little cloudy up here, and then it's more shiny on the hardened steel. And then here we have the one that I sanded up to 2500 and then used ferric and the buffer to polish. And again, it looks, maybe not on the camera, but to my eyes, it's almost identical to this one. So if you're gonna do it this way, it's pointless to sand up to 2500 when you can sand to 600 and get the same result. And I mean, this one might even be a little better, but that, you know, that little variations in the heat treat could have that result. So this one has a lot of you know, the cloudy looking parts down here. I think it's called the ashy, but they're darker clouded spots versus this one, which was done with the vinegar and the lemon juice. And you can see that this also came out really nice. But the difference is that it stayed shiny on the softer steel and got cloudy on the harder steel. And all the ashy and the line and everything, that's white versus this one, which is black. So I'm hoping that's coming through on the camera. But you can kind of tell how it's almost reverse. And where this one has a white line, this one has more of a black line. And then over here, this is the one that I sanded to 600 and buffed. And I kind of did it a little bit different. I did it with the vinegar and lemon juice. So instead of doing vinegar and then lemon juice and then back to vinegar and then back to lemon juice, I just did all vinegar and then all lemon juice. And this one's definitely not as good as the 2500, but it's still pretty decent. There's just hardly any cloudy spots down here on the bottom. So they all came out nice. I'm not sure I would say sanding it to 2500 and using vinegar and lemon juice is better than sanding it to 600 and using ferric. It's just different. It all depends on the look you're after, I guess. You know, the darker line versus the lighter line, and the darker clouded areas versus the lighter clouded areas. One thing that I should mention is that this one here, the way I typically do it, it took about, I don't know, I would say 20 minutes to do the dip and ferric and then buff, dip and ferric. And I did it 6 times on both of these. So 6 dips in ferric, 6 buffs on the, or 6 polishes on the buffing machine, versus this one, which I also did 6 dips in the vinegar, but you have to leave the vinegar on here for 20, 15, 20 minutes. And then, polish it by hand like I showed you. And then, so basically there was 6 dips in vinegar, 6 dips in lemon juice. So this one took hours to do this one versus 20 minutes to do this one. So I guess it depends on the knife you're doing, the look you're after, and your price point, what you're going to sell these for. So if you're trying to knock these out and get a really nice look, this is a good choice. If you're doing a more of a traditional Japanese tanto or katana, something that you're going to take a lot of time on, maybe this is the way to go, because maybe you'll be able to charge more for it. But anyway, here's the results. If you have any questions, please ask. I do pretty well getting back to people, and hopefully I have the answers for you. But anyway, there's the results. Thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.